Video games. Been sitting on this Ascension Tactics a while. Went through a lot of junk to finally get this. And by the time that I have it, the second Kickstarter is out now. But let's crack this baby open, see if it's an easy play, and maybe try to get it to the table today. Alright, Ascension Tactics is a deck building miniatures game where you control legendary champions battling through a campaign to save the world of Vigil. There are many challenges ahead, but in the end, only two outcomes, Oblivion or Ascension. What is the show that made fun of that? Like, was it Family Guy or was it South Park? I forget. Where they put the name of the thing in the thing. But yeah, play a brand new game from the creator of Ascension, deck building game, and the World of Warcraft miniatures game, Justin Gary. Got a great podcast, Think Like a Board Game Designer. Enjoy multiple game modes, including campaign, cooperative, and player versus player. Choose from dozens of champions and scenarios along with hundreds of cards to ensure endless replayability. 334 cards, 65 battle tiles, 45 champion standees, 24 treasure tokens, 17 game tokens, 40 honor tokens, honor token bag, game board, rule book, scenario book. Use your cards to command your champions. +5. Gain 5 power with heavy infantry in Korite Mechadon to command Runic Lycanthrope and Aura Sensei. Upgrade your deck with powerful cards. Gain 4 runes with apprentices to acquire Korite Mechadon. Alright. Korite Mechadon does gain 3. Fudge. Just cut myself. Start bleeding in a minute. Alright, 45 to 90 minutes. 1 to 4 players. 10 plus. Should bandage this up, but I'm gonna wait. Ascension Tactics, miniatures, deck building game, rule book, scenario book, hexes. Hexes. There are other games I should be playing, mini games I should be playing, but if I had that down person that's down to play all the time, I could get everything played, but maybe get this finally played though. Alright, Psyche, Ascara, Samuel, a lot of junk. Y'all, I heard somebody on a podcast talking about if you use the negative of all these punch boards into a game, that'll be cool. I've still yet to see somebody do it, but that's a good idea. Alright, the board. What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 by 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 10 by 11. Same both ways. Yeah, you get the idea. Is it the same both? Okay, there's actually terrain on this side. Got some forest, some crystal, home base for maybe 4 or 2 players. Yeah, no terrain on this side. Okay. And a bunch of cards, standees, bunch of standees, 4 colors, and Ascension crystals, the clear and the red. Cool insert like that. I guess this is where you hold your tokens in there. Ascension Tactics bag. Still not quite bleeding. That's good. And no secrets up under here. Got a ding and dent box somehow. I didn't ask for that. Don't really care, but still. I guess it just dinged and did it on a... Yeah, it's dinged and did it a little bit, but whatever. Packs of cards, Ascension Tactics. See how much different it really is than regular Ascension. Of course, you're playing on a 10 by 11 grid, but what else is different? And screw looking at the cards right now. Let's look at the rule book. Broken Dawn. This looks like a double-sided card, right? Are all Ascension cards double-sided? Can't really remember. All right, scenario book. Not that. For the regular competitive rule book. Okay, heroes. No, not the first page. Getting started. Ascension Tactics is a miniature deck building game. All players begin the game with their own deck of the same starting cards, but you'll customize and grow your deck as you play. On your turn, you use your cards to generate resources. Resources are used to acquire new cards for your deck and to command your champion on the battlefield to earn honor. There are many different scenarios to play, and the first player to reach your honor goal of the scenario wins. Components, all that stuff I said earlier. Setup. And Ascension Tactics contains many different scenarios that are playable with anywhere from 1 to 4 players. The setup of the basic game rules covered here applied to standard 2-player competitive scenarios. For rules and other modes of play, see additional ways to play on page 22. Starting decks. Each player begins with an identical 10-card starting deck, which consists of 8 apprentices, apprentices, and 2 militias. These white bordered cards are the foundation of your personal deck that you'll build upon and modify during each game. At the start of the scenario, each player shuffles their personal deck, draws 5 in the hand, and leaves the other 5 face down as their deck. Always available cards arrange the silver bordered cards, heavy infantry, mystics, and the cultist in the same regular fare. Game board. Decide which scenario you want to play and the corresponding layout diagram in the scenario book. To set the game board for your first game, we recommend playing the Battle of the Three Shines. Okay, so you're always playing a scenario. On page 4 in the scenario book, the layout of this scenario has been pre-printed on one side of the game board. This layout will determine the starting locations for terrain tiles, treasure tokens, and other important features on the battlefield. Read the scenario details carefully for any special game rules, changes to the scenario setup, and see the recommended champions for each player. Shuffle the treasure tokens face down and place one on each hex with the treasure token symbol. In the scenario book, put all remaining game tokens nearby within reach of both players, including the honor token. Game gateways and team colors. Randomly determine which player is going first. Give the first player token to the player 1 gateway card and the second player the player 2 gateway card. Your gateway determines your player or team color for the game. It also grants 2 attack on each of your turns. Gateways can't be destroyed or affected by other players. Keep the card in front of you as a helpful reminder to spend your attack each turn. Gateways provide additional bonuses for the players or teams that don't take the first turn. For example, Gateway 2 player provides an additional 2 attack on that player's first turn. Once per turn, gain 2 on the first turn of the game, gain 2. Player 2 Gateway. Champion selection. Each player begins the game with a roster of champions that they can command. These are the figures you will deploy to the game board to attack enemies and accomplish scenario goals. Consult the scenario book to find each player's suggested champion roster for the chosen scenario. Place those figures at their associated champion cards in front of you. If you'd rather recruit your own custom roster of starting champions instead of using one of those suggested for each player, see the champion drafting on page 23. We recommend using champion drafting as the standard mode of play once you've played through a few scenarios and gain familiarity with the game rules. Center roll. Shuffle together all the center deck cards and place the deck face down in its designated location on one side of the board. Center deck cards have a black color on their backside. Take the top 6 cards of the center deck and arrange them into a row of face-up cards next to the deck. This forms the center row where cards can be acquired by players on their turn. Once you've set up the starting deck and champions for each player and form the center row, you're ready to begin. Alright, easy. Let's check them card backs. Red back, another red back stack, and another red back stack. So, gotta dig into the mylar, what is that? Plastic, whatever. Alright, play area setup diagram. Treasure bag. Champion roster. Okay, so it looks like you get 3 champions, looks like. Player 1 starting cards. Gateway card. Starting deck. Player 2 starting cards. Alright, something like that. Champions. Champions are the valiant warriors you send into combat on the battlefield. They are represented by figures on the game board. Their abilities and combat attributes are determined by their champion card. Name: Allah, Arha Templar. Enlightened champion. Slay. You may command another of your champions for free this turn. Card type: power you must spend to command the champion. Okay, 3 power. Defense: champion is defeated when it's dealt this much damage. Strength: okay, so that's power in the power with the red back. On your turn, you can use power to command your champions. When commanded, a champion can move and attack in any order. You may command as many champions as you can afford to, but you can't command champions that are exhausted. See page 12 for more details on commanding champions. In addition to your roster of starting champions, there are additional champions available to be acquired from the center deck. Pay their cost to acquire them from the center row and add them to your roster. Faction: there are 4 different factions: Enlightened, Lifebound, Mekana, Void. Okay, heroes. Heroes represent the allies you recruit to aid your champion in battle. Your champions in battle, they can be acquired from the center row by spending runes. Heroes you acquire will be part of your evolving personal deck. Alright, gain 2. That's by power, right? Card type, effects, rarity. On your turn, you may play any number of heroes from your hand. When you play a hero, gain the effect listed on the card. Heroes you play will stay in front of you until the end of your turn and are then put into your discard pile. Okay, they just last 1 turn. Alright, constructs. Constructs are the weapons, magical items, and fantastic devices you can equip to your champion and enhance their capabilities. You use runes, the triangle, Triforce, to acquire new constructs from the center row for your deck. Cost 4 runes. Card type, other bonus. A reminder of any other stats and abilities added to the equipped champion, in this case, bonus speed. Strength bonus, defense bonus. When you play a construct, choose one of your champions, equip it. You can equip any number of constructs to a champion. Constructs remain equipped until that champion is defeated, and then put into your discard pile. Alright, monsters. Monsters are a special type of champion. They are unpredictable creatures that strive to sow death and destruction. Use power to recruit monsters from the center row to your roster and command it to lay waste to your enemies. Costs: power you must spend to command the monster. Monsters are a type of champion that are represented by a monster card and a figure on the battlefield. You use power to recruit them from the center row and command them on your turns. They can equip constructs, perform scenario objectives, become exhausted, and follow the rules that apply to other champions. There are other non-monster champions that can be acquired from the center row using runes. Alright, so monsters. Heroes, they look like they don't have attack and defense. They just stay on the board 1 turn. Constructs are equipment. Monsters, Yu-Gi-Oh! Monsters, creatures. Gameplay. Some cards and scenarios have text that contradicts the game rules listed within this rulebook. The card or scenario text supersedes the rules defined in the book. Turn breakdown. On your turn, you may take the following actions in any order as many times as you like. Play a card to gain runes, power, and other card effects. Acquire a hero or construct from the center row by paying its cost and putting it into your discard pile. Okay, heroes and constructs. Okay, hero and construct by paying its cost and putting it into your discard pile. I thought you put constructs onto... Some constructs are equipment. But anyway, heroes are more like just instants or whatever, or sorceries. Acquire a champion from the center row by paying its cost and adding it to its card and figure to your roster. Okay. Command one of your ready champions by paying its command cost, then exhausting it. When you have finished taking these actions, perform the following steps to end your turn. Place any played hero cards into your discard pile, along with any cards still in your hand. Draw 5 cards from your personal deck to create your hand for the following turn. Ready all of your exhausted champions. Score honor the stars. Check if anyone meets the victory conditions for the scenario in Battle of the Three Signs. The first player to have 30 honor wins. Okay, so like Keyforge, ready your guys at the end of your turn. Replenishing your personal deck. When your personal deck is empty, you need to draw a card or reveal a card from your deck. Shuffle the cards in your discard pile to replenish your personal deck. Each time you shuffle the cards you've acquired become part of your ever-evolving deck. Hero cards played during your turn are only put into your discard pile at the end of your turn. So if you need to replenish your deck in the middle of your turn, don't shuffle the cards you played this turn. Alright, gotta remember that. Gonna have to reread that at some point. Alright, playing cards from hand. There's no upfront cost to play cards from your hand. To play a hero card, take the card from your hand and place it up in front of you and announce its effect and follow the instructions on the card. Any choices required by the card must be made at that time. Any conditions for additional effects are then checked. Any rune or power generated can be saved and spent until your next turn. Heroes remain in front of you until the end of your turn when they are put into the discard pile, along with any cards you choose not to play from your hand. And effects that enhance your champion, such as those from playing a certain hero cards, will only do so until the end of the turn by default. You may play constructs from your hand to equip them directly to any of your champions. They remain equipped until they're destroyed and equipped champion is defeated. Equipping constructs. Constructs played from your hand are immediately equipped to your champion. Slide the construct under. There's no limit to the number. Alright. Acquiring cards from the center row. You can acquire cards. Should be self-explanatory if you know card games. Some cards have ambush effects that occur when you acquire the card. If a card has an ambush effect, it will be listed at the top of the effect box. Ambush. After taking the card from the center row and refilling its vacant spot, follow the instructions on the ambush portion of the card. Ambush. Ready one of your exhausted champions. Cards with ambush effects have a slightly different graphical frame from other cards to help them stand out when they're in center row. Replenishing the center row, the center deck. Okay. Commanding champions. Your roster of champion figures will begin the game in front of you. Next to their champion cards, you will need to command them in order to deploy them to the battlefield and engage in combat. You can command a champion by spending power equal to their command cost. The command cost is the number with the power symbol. When you command a champion, it is that's not currently on the battlefield. Deploy them by placing their figure onto your unoccupied portal hex. See terrain tiles on page 18. The commanded champion gains a move action and an attack action that can be used in any order. Champions who are already on the battlefield do not need to be deployed again when commanded. Then they can move and or attack starting from their current location. Once you've begun commanding a champion, you must finish the entire command sequence before you can take any other actions like playing cards, acquiring cards, or commanding a different champion. You may, however, use your treasure tokens at any time during the command. See treasure on page 20. When you finish commanding a champion, turn its champion card, tap it. Using a move action, commanded champions gain a number of movement points equal to their speed. Alright, interesting. Where is the speed? I saw speed on an equipment earlier. Commanded champions gain a number, blah, blah, blah. Their speed. All champions have a default speed of 3 unless otherwise noted. You can spend a movement point to move the commanded champion to an adjacent hex in any direction. Some special terrain tiles can impact champion movement by requiring multiple movement points or even by blocking movement altogether. See terrain tiles on page 18 for more details. Moving a single continuous action moving is a single continuous action. It can't be broken up during a command. For example, you can't move and then do something else. You can't move a champion or through a hex occupied by an enemy. You can move a champion through a hex with an ally, but you can't end with an occupied guy. Using an attack action. Champions can attack enemies adjacent to them on the battlefield. When they do, they deal damage equal to the... Yeah, what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to try to immediately look for a quick play on this, because I feel like a lot of games just need to come with a quick play. And then if you need to get down to the nitty gritty, then do that. Alright, but we almost done. Using an attack action, champions can attack enemies adjacent to them on the battlefield. When they do, deal damage to the strength. A champion is defeated when dealt the damage value. You can't command an exhausted champion. No crap. All damage is automatically healed from the champion at the end of each turn. See, like, and stuff like this too, when you got a rule book, like if you're already highlighting stuff, just hit the important stuff with the red if you're gonna really like highlight stuff yellow. But I've seen friends who hate it when I highlight a bunch of stuff, but and personal pet peeve. All damage is automatically healed from your champion at the start of each turn. It doesn't carry over from turn to turn. Magic like. Acquiring monsters. Monsters are a unique type of champion that can be recruited to your champion roster from the center row. Okay, so yeah. What are those? Allies, monsters, constructs, and heroes. Okay, heroes just one time use, just for the turn. Then place the monster card and its associated figure in front of you near your other champions. You can now command the monster on your turns, just as you would other champions, but you gotta bring them through the portal. I take it. There's no limit of the number of champions you can have on your roster, so recruiting monsters and other powerful champions on the center row will give you more options for commanding on your turn. Monsters follow all of the other standard champion rules. They move and attack when commanded. They become exhausted. They can be equipped with constructs, and they can be defeated and later redeployed. Monsters and other acquired champions typically have powerful ambush abilities. These are bonus effects that can occur when you acquire them. You will ignore the ambush effect when commanding them later in the game. Alright, cool. Just upon acquiring. Alright, commanding the cultists. In addition to being able to command the champions on your roster, you can also command cultists. Commanding a cultist is something any player can choose to do on their turn. Each player can have up to 4 cultists on the battlefield at any time. Cultists cost 2 to command. They have 2 attack and 1 defense. They're deployed onto your portal. Have 3 speed. When moving, can attack enemies and may interact with map objectives just like any other champion. You don't need to move the cultist card. It should remain in its designated location on the board as a reminder. Okay, you don't need to move the cultist card. When you command a cultist, you can choose to either command any of your ready cultists already on the battlefield, or command and deploy a new one from the reserve of available cultist figures. You can't command a cultist that belongs to an opposing player or that has already been commanded this turn. Cultists can equip constructs due to their iconoclast nature. They can, however, gain temporary bonuses and attributes and gain temporary abilities like range for the turn. Cultists are champions and are therefore affected by cards that affect champions. Each cultist figure can be commanded only once per turn. When defeated, they are removed from the board and returned to the reserve. Attaching cultist rings, Kickstarter edition only. Alright, got no rings. But, you know, I bet you I got rings already in my spare pieces. Maybe that size even. There are 4 unique colors of detachable rings, allowing you to track cultists up to 4 different players. Oh, yeah, we only got standee cultists. Alright, that's a bit. Banishing cards. Some cards will allow you to banish cards in your hand. Discard pile or cards you've played during your turn. When an effect tells you to banish a card, choose one and remove that card from the game. If you banish an apprentice or militia, return it to the box that it is never mixed into the center deck. If the banished card is a heavy infantry or mystic, return it to the appropriate always available pile. If the center deck ever runs out of cards, you can shuffle all the banished center deck cards together to form a new deck. Alright, end of your turn. When you're done playing cards from your hand, acquiring cards from the center row, and commanding champions, place all the cards you played this turn that remained in your hand in your discard pile. You lose any unspent resources. Draw 5. Ready all your exhausted champions by turning their cards upright. Collect any honor. Okay, we already ran through that. Alright, BRB. I'm back. Alright, ability keywords. Allegiance. Allegiance is an ability that appears on champions, constructs, and heroes. Allegiance comes in 4 varieties, one for each different faction types. Okay, different factions got different stuff. You gain a bonus effect if you play or have already played another card that matches the faction listed during the same turn. Cool. Okay, yeah, makes sense. Ambush. Ambush is a bonus effect that happens when you play it. Area attack. I'm sure that it hits all enemies within the attack range. A champion with area attack and the range ability attacks all enemies within their line of sight up to 3 hexes away. A champion with an area attack does not have range attacks. All adjacent enemies. A champion with area attack that does not have range attacks all just adjacent right next to him. Area attacks count as a single simultaneous attack against each possible enemy target. All enemies with that fist who are attacked this way will strike back at the same time. Okay, counter attack. Okay, strike back. Pay 17. Area attacks are always made against all enemies in range. You can't choose to attack only some. Double attack. Pretty self-explanatory. Range, you know it. Slay. Sounds like Death Strike. Bonus effect that defeats an enemy, yeah. Constructs that grant slay effect. The quilt will have the slay symbol. I slay. Strike back, counterattack, you know. The defender must be adjacent to their attacker in order to strike back, or they must have range and strike back to retaliate against a ranged attack. Clockwork Blade, dealing strike back damage is not an attack action. Your champion can trigger multiple strike back. Alright, don't seem too bad to get played. Terrain tile, standard hex, portal. Each player begins on one of their portals, blue, yellow. Interactive portal. Champions can't deploy onto interactive portals. When one of your champions moves onto an interactive portal, they activate it. Replace the inactive portal tile with the normal portal tile that matches your player color. You can now deploy a champion. Okay, you got multiple spawn points. Okay, Honor Shrine. Controlling these locations that allows you to gain honor. The player with the most champions on an honor shrine and its adjacent hexes controls that shrine. At the end of your turn, you gain 2 honor for each honor shrine you control. Some scenarios have differing honor values for certain shrine locations. If 2 opposing players have an equal number of champions around an honor shrine, it is contested and neither player controls it. Each honor shrine is scored individually, so it's possible to gain honor from multiple shrines at the end of your turn. Aside from rewarding honor, these tiles have no impact on champion movement or combat. Honor shrines come in 2 different visual styles, using the alternative image for honor shrine that have differently from the default rules. For example, those that award more than 2 or have unique scenario rules. Forest. Champions are slowed by moving into a forest. They must spend an additional movement. Tainted tile. Tainted tiles are generally causing a negative effect for the champion on the tile. The exact effects are determined by the scenario detailed in the scenario book. Okay. Enchanted tile. The effects of enchanted tiles are determined by the scenario details in the scenario book. Beacons, inactive tiles, and beacon tokens. Beacons typically begin as a scenario as an inactive beacon tile on the battlefield. They have no impact on the champion movement or line of sight, and they provide no effects. Moving your champions onto a beacon tile will activate it and turn control of that beacon over to you. As soon as your champion moves onto a beacon, place a beacon token that matches the player color on top of the tile to denote that you now control the beacon. Remove any beacon tokens belonging to other players that may have been placed on the deal. You will gain a benefit by controlling beacons as determined by the scenario details. Okay. Token types. Treasure tokens. Treasures are the most common type of token. They're placed onto the battlefield at the start of the game based on the scenario You can remove your champion on the treasure tokens and pick them up, or gain treasure bag through certain card effects. Turret. Acquiring the card Salvage Master Mila that allows you to place a turret token on the battlefield. Playing that card later allows you to move the turret token to a different hex. While the turret doesn't directly affect the hex that it's placed on, some cards allow you to use the turret to make an attack against enemies. Nice. Fairy Ring. Acquiring the Kiri Metal Witch allows you to place the Fairy Ring token on the battlefield. Playing that card later allows you to move the token to a different hex. If you were the last person to place or move the Fairy Ring token, your champion will gain +3 attack and +3 offense while they are on the Fairy Ring hex. Objective tokens. Used for commanding villain champions in the solo and co-op modes. Treasure tokens should be placed on the battlefield at the start of the game. Treasure token icon, blah blah blah. Store all extra treasure tokens in the treasure bag. If a card attack tells you to gain a treasure, okay, it looks like +1 movement, +2 attack, ranged attacks, line of sight diagram. The champion at the center of the diagram, Icarus, he and Tyrant, blah blah blah. Icarus can attack the water gen just above him because champions with range can still attack adjacent enemies. Alright, you know, the minutia. Alright, and additional ways to play. Champion drafting, that's a must. 2v2 teams, 3 or 4 player brawl. Okay, solo play, co-op, become the boss. Champion drafting, how to draft. 2v2 mode, 3 or 4 player brawl. Solo play, schemes. Co-op play. FAQ, become the boss mode. And adjusting co-op mode. Solo/co-op difficulty. Questions. Glossary of terms. Alright, wasn't too bad at all. Was not bad at all. This might get played sooner than later, hopefully. Even though we got 1 million already to play, let's add this to the list. Alright, Boyo Games, like, comment, subscribe, mess with your boy. We're gonna do double 2 vibe.